The story takes place 18 years after Dracula's defeat. The focus now shifts to Abraham Van Helsing and his family, who have moved to America to begin a new life. Yet, even with Dracula gone, the shadows of that battle and the scars it left still linger over the Van Helsing household. The film makes some bold changes to the familiar lore. For example, Mina is now married to Abraham Van Helsing, while Jonathan has already died. The storytelling style itself is also quite different, something we'll discuss more deeply by the end. The film opens with text taken from Van Helsing's medical journal. It's the year 1915 in California's Central Valley. We see a woman walking alone toward town. A man on horseback passes by but doesn't stop to help. She looks weak, possibly sick, and sits down to rest. Suddenly, she notices someone dressed in dark clothes watching her. Moments later, she's attacked. The film doesn't reveal what happens to her afterward. The story then shifts to Van Helsing and his family. He lives with his wife Mina and their two sons, Max, the elder, and Rudy, the younger. They live far from the city, in a quiet, isolated home where Van Helsing hopes to keep his family safe. Max is strong with physical tasks, while Rudy is more focused on his studies. Their father, however, is strict and demanding. One evening, Van Helsing speaks privately with Max. He tells his son he has discovered something disturbing. He admits it was foolish to think they could hide forever. People are starting to settle nearby, and with a new railway line being built close to their home, he fears danger is approaching. He insists they must be prepared, and Max, being obedient, agrees to help his father no matter what. We'll later discover why Van Helsing lives in constant fear. That night, Max can't sleep and goes downstairs. His father is busy in his office while Mina sits outside, muttering strange words like riddles. She wonders if all of this is really meant for them, or if the questions should be asked to someone else. At first, her words sound mysterious, but the ending will reveal their meaning. Max gently tells her to rest. As she heads to her room, Mina softly admits she never imagined having sons. She always wished for a kind-hearted daughter, but protecting such innocence, she says, would be even harder. Max doesn't fully grasp her words. The next day, Van Helsing speaks to Max about their past. Max was born in England, but after Helsing's battle with Dracula, the family moved to Amsterdam. They didn't stay long and later settled in the California mountains, where Rudy was born. He tells Max how he once fought a creature of darkness to save Mina. In that battle, Mina's first husband lost his life, and afterward, Helsing married her. He warns Max about vampires, how they drain life, turn others into their kind, and never die. Mina still carries scars from those events, which explains her troubled state even now. During their talk, a girl named Elsie arrives with her injured brother. A heavy object had fallen on him, and she had been told a doctor lived nearby. Helsing treats him in his own unusual way, but advises her to take him to the town hospital. Before she leaves, he oddly takes a photograph of the boy. Elsie thanks him and departs with her brother, who was part of the railway mapping crew nearby. Later, Max notices his mother making something unusual: red pudding. He has never seen it before. Mina explains it's an old recipe from England, rarely made anymore. A story connected to Dracula can never avoid the subject of blood. Mina loved her children deeply, and she loved Van Helsing too, but it was clear she was hiding many secrets within herself. While preparing the pudding, a bat suddenly flies into the house. The sight terrifies Mina. She instinctively clutches her neck, haunted by old memories of Dracula. A while later, the bat dies, and Max quietly buries it outside. By this point, the film leaves us uneasy, wondering what will come next. One night, Rudy asks his brother if he truly believes in the creatures their father spoke of. Had he ever actually seen one? Max replies that it doesn't matter what he believes. Their father always said those things never appear uninvited. But Rudy isn't convinced. He admits he often hears strange sounds at night, crying, scratching, noises like an animal, but not any animal he knows. Max doesn't believe him and scolds him, warning him not to talk about it again. Rudy falls silent, disappointed. The next day, Elsie returns to thank Van Helsing, bringing cookies. She meets Mina, who is impressed by Elsie's confidence, working alongside men in such a tough job. As Elsie leaves, Mina holds her hand and warns her to be careful, because dangerous things come out at night. The warning unsettles Elsie, though she doesn't fully understand it. What Mina doesn't realize is that meeting Elsie will soon change her outlook in unexpected ways. The next day, Max and Rudy sit down to do homework. Max struggles with his math problems, and Van Helsing scolds him harshly. Mina, however, is the opposite. She treats her children with warmth and patience. She reminds Max that Van Helsing once saved her from a great evil, clearly hinting at Dracula. She explains that Van Helsing only wants to protect their family. Then Mina says something important, a clue for the audience. Only she and Van Helsing had truly seen the monster's real face. No one else. The meaning of this will become clear by the end. Van Helsing rarely allows his sons to leave home, so they spend most of their time inside. One evening, Rudy tells Max he hears strange sounds in the distance and asks what's really happening. In truth, they were the noises of nearby workers, but Max doesn't give him much explanation. That night, outside their home, we briefly see the same dark figure who attacked the woman earlier. If Van Helsing's fears are true, maybe the vampires have found them, or perhaps the story is hiding another twist. Later, Max has a terrifying nightmare where Dracula attacks his mother Mina. The dream shocks him awake, leaving him shaken. Slowly, the audience begins to sense that something is wrong with Mina. Perhaps she's sick, or perhaps it's something else. Max notices it too. The following day, while chopping wood, Max hears a woman screaming from inside the house. Confused, but suddenly Mina appears behind him, startled and uneasy. She tells Max they are not safe here, that they must leave at once. Max gently calms her and guides her back inside. After that day, Mina's health declines further. She spends more time in bed, while Van Helsing personally tends to her, trying to keep her condition under control. When Max enters, Van Helsing asks him to sit. Mina, weak and restless, says she's thirsty, but instead of water, he gives her medicine. He explains that Mina suffers from a strange illness tied to blood. To keep her alive, he performs a transfusion using Max's blood. He never explains the full truth, but Max, trusting his father, obeys. Afterward, Mina suddenly grows uneasy. She whispers that he is here. She can feel Dracula outside the window. Max moves to open the curtain, but Van Helsing warns against it, saying the light will harm her. When Max peeks, no one is there, leaving both him and the audience confused. Still, Max believes his father. Determined to protect his mother, he begins guarding the house like a soldier. The next day, while playing, Rudy sneaks into their father's office. Max rushes after him, and in the chaos, a framed photo of Mina shatters. Max scolds Rudy, reminding him no one is allowed in this room. Suddenly, they spot a woman's hands in the basement, chained and reaching out. She crawls toward them, sending chills down their spines. Terrified, Max slams the door shut. Yet, he can't stop wondering who that woman really was. Rudy, shaken but curious, whispers that maybe she's the very creature their father had warned them about. Before the boys can react, Abraham arrives. He orders them to step back and, without hesitation, ends the woman's life with a stake. The shocking sight leaves Rudy frozen in fear, while Max grows restless, his mind burning with questions. Abraham explains that their mother never wanted them to know the truth, but now that they've started uncovering it, the time has come to learn his ways. Rudy hesitates, but Max reassures him, and together they descend into the basement, where the woman's lifeless body lies. There, Abraham reveals his past. He was once a hunter of the undead, creatures people now call vampires. He claims to have destroyed more than 13 of them, including Mina's first husband, Jonathan Harker. Afterward, he married Mina and began teaching others how to protect themselves. He explains he had been watching this woman for days. Bite marks on her neck showed she was changing, though he never found the one who attacked her. Vampires, he warns, don't fall easily. To end them completely requires a strike through the heart, followed by a final blow to the head. To harden Max, Abraham hands him a hammer and stake, insisting he must learn to defend himself. Rudy is terrified, and Max doesn't want to obey, but defying his father isn't an option. With anger in his eyes but loyalty holding him back, Max follows the instructions and drives the stake into the woman as ordered. Seeing this, Abraham feels proud of Max. He praises him, though it's obvious the woman hadn't looked alive and the act felt unnecessary. Max, uneasy, asks why she had no fangs if she was really turning. Abraham confidently replies that fangs disappear after death, but Max remembers. She never had them, even when alive. Abraham then orders Rudy to bring the situation to an end. Rudy panics and refuses. Max offers to do it instead, but Abraham insists Rudy must learn. When he forces Rudy, Max shoves his father away to protect his brother. Enraged, Abraham slaps Max, leaving him glaring back in anger. Later, Abraham shifts the blame, telling Max, "Look what you made me do." He never admits his own faults. Max snaps, saying he wants to leave this house and escape all of it. Abraham, arrogant, replies that he can go if he wants. They don't need him. Deep down, though, he knows Max will never leave. He's been raised isolated, always dependent on his father. That night, Abraham makes Max help bury the body. Afterward, he tells him that with time, this work will become easier and that he is proud of him. These are words every son longs to hear, but Max's expression reveals the opposite. He now feels nothing but disgust for his father. Back at the house, the family visits Mina, whose health is worsening. She tells Abraham about a dream, Dracula coming into her room. She asks if he remembers that night. Abraham says he does, but Mina's tone turns cold. She accuses him of not saving her, but of trapping her in a darker prison of his own making. Shocked, Abraham can only stare as she demands to be left alone. Max later apologizes to Rudy, but Rudy has already turned against him for not listening. Abraham, noticing both boys are starting to doubt him, tries to hold their trust. He warns them about vampires, creatures that strike in the shadows, things you must believe in even without proof. He admits to Max that he was harsh and now promises to be gentler, hoping to keep control through kindness. Max doesn't fully trust this change. While out walking, he runs into Elsie. She asks why they live so far from everyone else. Max replies that they prefer it that way, but in their talk, he admits his mother is very sick, something he has never seen before. Elsie feels sorry for him. That same afternoon, Mina passes away. Abraham breaks down in grief, and the family mourns, giving her a traditional funeral. That night, Max dreams of Mina riding with a horseman, her neck marked by strange bites. He wakes terrified, unsure of what the vision means. Later, he goes to Rudy, who is still angry. Rudy reminds Max that he once wanted to leave, Was that true? Max says yes, because their father's actions are unbearable and he no longer accepts them. He promises Rudy that if he ever escapes, he will take him along. But Rudy shakes his head, saying he doesn't believe him, because no matter how much Max hates what's happening, he never truly stands against their father. Max feels hurt, and just then he sees a car approaching. It's Arthur, an old neighbor from London. Max recognizes him, and Arthur expresses sorrow over Mina's passing, even inviting Max to visit London someday. Abraham leads Arthur inside. Arthur explains why he came. Long ago, Abraham had taught others how to fight the undead. In Dracula, we saw that when Lucy was infected, Arthur stood beside Abraham. Under his guidance, Arthur ended his own wife's life, believing it would save her soul. Even now, years later, that memory still torments him. He tells Abraham, "I only did this because I trusted you, but I've changed. Tell me honestly, was what I did a sin? I took the life of someone who had done no wrong." Abraham explodes in anger, calling him weak. Arthur pleads with him to stop this madness, warning that people no longer believe his ways. But Abraham insists he was right. Lucy was a monster. Arthur fires back, asking, "And what about Mina? Was she a monster too?" Enraged, Abraham throws him out of the house. Max overhears it all and confronts his father. Abraham dismisses Arthur as insane and shows Max his diary. Inside are photos of people Abraham claimed were vampires, most of them women. He insists these are proof of the danger, warning that the new railroad will bring the threat directly to them. His plan: destroy them all before they reach the family. But Max finally stands up to him. He declares that the sick ones weren't those people. It was Abraham himself. The real danger isn't outside, it's within their home. He accuses his father of isolating Mina, of breaking their family apart, and demands that this madness end. Realizing Max has turned against him, Abraham snaps. He stabs Max in the hand, drags him into the basement, and locks him inside. Then, forcing Rudy to follow, he takes his younger son away with him. Max gathers his strength, breaks through the door, and sets out to rescue his brother. Anger burns in his eyes. This time, he's determined to end the madness. Grabbing an axe, he follows Abraham, who has gone after the railroad workers. The scene shifts to Elsie and her brother, sitting near their camp. Suddenly, Elsie hears a worker's voice from the bushes. Moments later, the man stumbles out, fatally wounded. From the shadows, Abraham appears, dressed in black. Elsie tries to escape, but Abraham catches her. In the empty wilderness, no one can hear her cries, but Max, nearby, does. He follows the sound. Abraham, intent on training Rudy, forces a stake into his hands and orders him to use it on Elsie. Terrified, Rudy hesitates. At the last moment, he turns and drives the stake into his father instead. Before Abraham can react, Max arrives and strikes him with the axe, years of anger burning in his eyes. Abraham only laughs, pride flashing across his face. He tells his sons, "Now you finally understand me." But Max delivers one final blow, ending him. Rudy and Elsie stand frozen in shock. Elsie trembles, but Max reassures her, "Don't be afraid, you're safe now. My father was a monster." Still, Elsie runs off in fear. In the final scenes, Max and Rudy leave their home forever, riding away on horseback, perhaps toward Arthur. Elsie watches them from afar, but her respect for them is gone. The film closes with Abraham's last narration. He recalls how his own father was cruel, shaping him into what he became. The cycle of pain had passed down to him, and now to his sons. With that, the story ends. The story leaves us with many unsettling questions. It is presented in a psychological way. Was Abraham truly a vampire hunter, or just a mentally disturbed man who harmed women? Did he plant the fear of Dracula into everyone's minds, forcing Mina and the others to believe him? Was Dracula ever real, or only a dark manifestation of Abraham's obsession? The film drops several hints. For example, Mina accusing him, "You imprisoned me." Throughout the story, there is never a solid clue proving vampires exist. Even the woman attacked at the beginning, it's possible Abraham himself was behind it, dressed in black, and Mina, who clearly needed medical help, was never properly treated by him. Instead, she weakened and died. All of this makes the film incredibly deep. It blurs the line between reality and fantasy, leaving us to wonder, was this truly a fight against creatures of the night, or the tragedy of a family destroyed by one man's madness?